This makes no fucking sense at all. Because Solo just turned babyface. And they have been establishing him outside of the bloodline. He's become more entertaining than he's ever been. He's been developing his own identity. And now, basically, they're like, oh, well, now you have to go back and be Roman's bitch again. Are you... What? That don't make any damn sense, dude. What is going on in WWE right now? Brock Lesnar has officially retired. Zilla Fatu has arrived in NXT. CM Punk and Kevin Owens made things very personal on SmackDown. And we've got some serious questions about where WWE is taking the bloodline. Plus, I'm calling bullshit on Jonathan Coachman. We're talking about the controversies surrounding AJ Styles' son Avery and the whole pay your dues mentality. And we're breaking down the Chelsea Green injury situation. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. This is Pro Wrestling Focus, episode 49. All right, so let's start off the podcast talking about Brock Lesnar's retirement from WWE. But is he really retired? I mean, as we know, Brock Lesnar had his match against Obafemi at SummerSlam inside Hell in a Cell, and Brock lost to Obafemi. And, he gave his endorsement to Oba, saying, I'm the past, Oba's the future, Obafemi is the future of WWE. And then a couple days later, Brock Lesnar appeared on the Pat McAfee show, and he announced his retirement from WWE, and he was saying that, he wants to spend more time with his kids and support the things that they're doing. If you've been keeping up with Brock and his family, that his daughter is a track and field athlete. His sons play hockey. So yeah, he's going to go support what they're doing in their sports endeavors. And Brock felt like, it was time, that he's getting too old to be doing this. Brock's 49 years old. He's almost 50. And yeah, Brock said that he's, retiring and he ain't going to be doing shit. And yeah, so WWE moved him to the alumni section of the website, which they do with everybody, but you can't really believe that that's legitimate at times. So as far as the backstage reports go, the feeling is that WWE doesn't actually believe that this is a permanent thing. And Triple H kind of even alluded to it in the SummerSlam press conference after the show. He said that Brock Lesnar does what Brock Lesnar wants to do. And that is true. Brock is that kind of guy where you think he's going to do one thing and then he does another. He kind of just does what he wants to do in that particular moment. And, there's been discussions about WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia. Could Brock Lesnar be chasing another Saudi payday? Brock definitely got a lot of those, throughout his career. And, they think that if he doesn't actually wrestle a match, he could be the headliner for the 2027 WWE Hall of Fame class if he decides not to wrestle at WrestleMania 43. So, what do I think? I mean, if Brock Lesnar is done, if Brock Lesnar is retired, then what a career. Brock Lesnar is going to go down in the history books as the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. And you definitely, can't dispute that, because the man had a hell of a run in not only the WWE, but the UFC. He dominated collegiate wrestling, and he even had a short stint in the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings. But yeah, Brock is definitely a once in a lifetime athlete, and and just he is different, completely built different compared to the average professional wrestler. Brock was just built on a much different scale compared to everybody else. The man was destined for greatness. No question about it. I've had my issues with Brock Lesnar over the years because I felt like he was more so in wrestling for the money rather than for the love of the business. And I was critical of him not putting people over, but in the last couple years, I feel like Brock showed that he gave a shit about the wrestling business. And he was putting guys over like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and most recently, Obafemi. Helped launch Obafemi into the superstar that he is going to become. So yeah, Brock Lesnar, I respect what he's accomplished in not only wrestling, but also in mixed martial arts when he was the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. And, but here's the thing. Even though I've been critical of Brock Lesnar, there's no way in fucking hell I would ever fight that man. No. Because Brock Lesnar, he, in my opinion, is capable of killing a man with his bare hands. That dude is a freak of nature, pure and simple. And there's no way in hell I would want to cross paths with that man. And yeah, I would not want to go ahead and do that at all. Because I know I would get my ass destroyed for sure. But yes, so I have respect for what Lesnar's accomplished in the wrestling ring, in the octagon, and yeah, he'll definitely be missed. His impact in the business will be missed if this is truly it for him, which I do think it is, because I don't foresee anything else for Brock really to do. At this point, I think he it feels final. It feels complete, like his career is actually over. So we'll have to really see how it goes come WrestleMania season. Maybe Brock looks at the money and he's like, oh man, this is too good to pass up. So yeah, I'll come back and I'll work a match. So yeah, we're just gonna have to see what happens, because when a wrestler retires, they're not really retired, because everybody, for the most part, has come back. Shawn Michaels came out of retirement for that awful tag match with him and Triple H against Kane and The Undertaker, and it was a disaster. And Shawn Michaels would love for us to forget about it, but it happened. And then, CM Punk came out of retirement after he was gone for 10 years. And, everybody's come back. Everybody. So, yeah, so there is a chance, Brock gets the itch to ever return, the door's open. The door is open for him to come back and work a match and everything. And I think, he will have a lasting legacy on the wrestling business for sure. And even though, Brock seemed like he was an asshole at times, you have to admit, the dude was a star. No doubt about it. And a lot of fans have reported positive interactions with Brock. I don't think there was ever an incident with fans or anything like that. I don't think he ever turned anybody away. He was cool with everybody, took pictures, and that's saying something for Brock, because he's not really a people person. But yeah, I've seen nothing but positive fan reactions to meeting him in public. So, but if this is truly it for Brock Lesnar, I hope he is content and happy in retirement, and he will for sure be a future Hall of Famer. All right, let's talk about the Chelsea Green situation and Jacy Jayne being involved here. So, like I predicted at SummerSlam, Chelsea Green was going to win the interim women's championship, and she did. A lot of people were picking Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, and Chelsea Green was the one who came away with the title. And then, and it was a huge moment. It was the biggest moment of Chelsea Green's career and everything. She came out to celebrate her big win on SmackDown. Tiffany Stratton was out there, and then Fatal Influence came out there as well. So then there was a tag match that got set up. It was Chelsea and Tiffany against Lainey Reed and Fallon Henley of Fatal Influence. And unfortunately, Chelsea Green suffered a broken orbital bone during the match. Chelsea had to be rushed to the emergency room after the match. So things are kind of up in the air as far as where they go from here with Chelsea, because this could not have come at a worse time, because Rhea Ripley, her meniscus injury did not heal the way that WWE would have hoped. So she had to get surgery on her meniscus. So Rhea is going to be out longer than actually anticipated, and they were actually thinking about dropping the interim tag on the women's title and just calling Chelsea Green the women's champion, the official champion, which, they are treating Chelsea's reign as an official reign, just so people are aware. But now that Chelsea's had this injury happens, what happens now? Like, what does WWE do from here now? Like, if Chelsea's going to be out for an extended period of time, then what? Does she drop the title? Do they do another tournament or do another ladder match to declare a new champion? Like, this is just, wow. That title has become cursed now. Did fucking Danhausen put a curse on the women's title? I mean, come on now. Like, this is just really bad timing. And then we gotta bring up Jacy Jayne, because, well, Jacy Jayne, unfortunately, is getting kind of a bad reputation among the internet wrestling fans, and some people are calling her unsafe now, because unfortunately Chelsea Green is the second person that she's accidentally injured recently, because she accidentally injured Brie Bella at SummerSlam. Brie Bella has a broken shoulder, and she'll be out for 6 months, as what they're saying. And now Chelsea Green's hurt, and but as far as backstage is concerned, there's no backstage reports that there's any heat on Jacy Jayne, no reported punishments or anything like that, and that both incidents were considered accidents. So they're not going to really punish Jacy Jayne, because it was simply that, accidents. Shit happens. And even Chelsea Green said that in her video when she confirmed that she was injured, that, it's wrestling. Shit happens. It's stuff that you can't prepare for. And unfortunately, it's just an occupational hazard of the wrestling business. But this is where I want to, give my thoughts and talk about fans who immediately assign blame to wrestlers and talk about them being unsafe and shit. Look, here's the thing. Yeah, WWE is scripted entertainment. It's scripted, the matches and the outcomes are predetermined, and everyone's in a storyline. But there's stuff that happens on live TV that you just can't prepare for. And unfortunately, that's what happened here with Chelsea Green and Jacy Jayne. Jacy was just doing a move, and unfortunately, it injured Chelsea. And I don't think Chelsea's necessarily, pissed at Jacy Jayne. It's just stuff that happens. And, there's a big difference between something that's an accident and someone who's unsafe in the ring. But yeah, I think WWE needs to keep the course on Jacy Jayne because, they're building her up along with Fallon and Laney. Fallon and Laney are the women's tag team champions. So yeah, they need to keep, going the course here. And then I believe that Jacy Jayne is supposed to have a United States title match against Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown. And that'll be interesting to see if Jacy walks away with the title or not. If they want to keep building up Fatal Influence, I think that's the way to do it, honestly. Have Jacy, take that title off of Tiffany, and then maybe you go Tiffany and Chelsea for the women's title if Chelsea is medically cleared to compete. Now, that's the big thing. What should happen now with the title since Chelsea's hurt? I mean, she could try to work through it, I think, they're definitely probably thinking about doing that damn face mask shit with, again, that some wrestlers have done. Trish Stratus has done it in the past. Cody Rhodes has done it in the past. They could probably go that route, have her wear a protective face mask. Or they could just yank the title off of her, but I think that'd be incredibly unfucking fair. She just won the damn thing. But, they let Rhea be champion, with her injury and everything. She went over a month without defending it. So, I don't know what they're going to do with the women's title, honestly. It's a clusterfuck. It's bad timing. And it sucks for Chelsea Green. It really does. Because she's someone that fans love. She's a star. And I really think she should get a run with this title. And then when Rhea comes back, then, Rhea will probably get a chance to either reclaim the title. Like I was saying, leading up to SummerSlam. But I don't know. It's just a messy situation for sure. All right, let's talk about WWE Radio that launched with SiriusXM, and it launched during SummerSlam weekend. And this new radio program features live 24/7 WWE programming. So it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, there will be something WWE related going on this SiriusXM channel. It features basically, Busted Open and the podcast that WWE does with Stephanie McMahon, Cody Rhodes, Undertaker, then the Raw recap shows. So there'll be something always going on with this WWE radio program on SiriusXM. and it featured for the first time ever live PLE audio commentary with Vic Joseph and Booker T calling the action at SummerSlam. And it got a very positive reception from fans, and I believe it's a great option for people who can't watch the PLEs. Or, let's say they're at work and, they're not able to watch the PLE, if their job allows them to listen to their earbuds or headphones at work, then they can tune in to SiriusXM WWE Radio and listen to the audio commentary. Because NFL fans do that. They listen to the radio for the NFL games, and yeah, I think it was pretty cool. And they had interviews with top WWE names like Triple H, CM Punk. I believe Charlotte Flair also was interviewed. It wasn't just like mid Carters. They had like the big top stars involved. And I think that, WWE Radio is a great concept. I love that they're doing the live PLE audio commentary for people who can't watch the PLE live. And, that way people can keep up with the action. Definitely very cool. But of course, there were people who had issues with this, and people are kind of pissed off that Busted Open is now operating within the WWE and SiriusXM ecosystem. And fans are worrying about independent wrestling and journalism disappearing, and that there basically has been a reduced coverage for AEW All Elite Wrestling. And Thunder Rosa, she was a part of the Bust Open rotation. She's no longer a part of it now. And fans are questioning whether critical coverage can survive under a WWE branded network. Now, here's the thing. It's called WWE Radio. So yeah, they're going to talk about WWE. That's basically what's going on. But here's the thing, you got such a small market for like independent wrestling. People keep up with it. There's passionate independent wrestling fans out there. And yeah, I can see why people might be a little upset that that kind of content won't be available on that particular channel anymore. And, they're probably angry about the AEW coverage being reduced. And it doesn't bother me because I don't really watch AEW all that much. It's just not for me. People don't come for my head. But yeah, I think in the long run, I think people are going to really dig this. And who knows? This might open up another like way to build stuff up on TV, let's say, for example, you have two guys who are feuding with each other. They come into the radio program, and then let's just say they go off on each other live on the air, and it adds to the storyline. I think there's a lot of positive coming out of WWE Radio than there are negatives. And then got to talk about Dave LaGreca. I haven't talked about Dave LaGreca in about a year. The last time I talked about him was when he was critical of The Rock for his involvement in the John Cena and Cody Rhodes program from last year's WrestleMania. But fans are accusing LaGreca and Bubba Dudley and Nick Nemeth, like the whole Busted Open crew, of selling out. And, they got front row seats at SummerSlam, and they were calling them stooges. And then Jonathan Coachman, he was fired as well, which I'm going to be getting to Coachman here in a minute. But here's the thing. Dave LaGreca doesn't own SiriusXM. It wasn't his deal to make. He did not sell out. And besides, Nick Khan told Dave and the crew, I don't want anything to change with you guys. Don't feel like you have to be favorable towards us. I want you guys to still have your opinions about what we do, because that's, I love to see it. So, yeah, I don't think LaGreca is going to start, being a WWE shill now just because, it's now WWE Radio. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing, honestly, for the business rather than a negative thing. It's a WWE owned platform, but as long as LaGreca and the crew is allowed to have their own opinions and, they're allowed to, have negative opinions about the product, then I don't see the problem with this at all. I really don't. All right, I gotta address this man right here, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because, quite frankly, the man's full of shit. And I'm talking about Jonathan Coachman. Coachman, he's been saying a lot of shit, over the last year about WWE, but we gotta get in the most recent bullshit that he has spewed. And this time it's about Bron Breakker and Logan Paul. And Coachman is claiming that Bron Breakker and Logan Paul don't get along backstage. And he said that there is legit backstage tension between the two, and he's confirmed it. And Logan Paul responded today publicly on X saying, WTF LOL. So Coachman has presented this as confirmed information. And then Logan is like, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, like he says, I've actually verified it. Verified it with who? Who did you talk to? What the guy in catering? Like, come on, Coachman. Like, he has become a wrestling dirt sheet, pretty much. Yeah, that's what Jonathan Coachman has become, and not even a good one at that, because he does a weekly podcast with one of the most despised individuals in the whole wrestling business, in Vince Russo, who is the most uncreative, dumbest fucking writer that the business has ever fucking had. And Coachman, I know why he's doing this, pretty much. I know why he is coming at WWE the way he is, and he's making all this shit up, is because I think he's bitter toward WWE. He did not like how he exited the company, and I think he knows that he's never going to work there ever again. So I think that's the reason why he's doing this, because, he's trying to hold on to what little fame that he has left. And Russo, he's been trying to do that for over 2 decades at this point. Like they're both. It's two desperate men who are trying to hold on to what little relevance they have left in this industry, and that's all it is. So Coachman has resorted to making shit up, telling people false stories to get clicks and listens on their little podcast that no one gives a shit about. It's as simple as that, man. And I'm sure that Coachman is getting tips from Russo on what to say and how to say it and how to piss people off, because Russo has done a good job of that over the last 2 decades. But yes, pretty much, do not listen to what Coachman has to say, because it's horseshit, pure and simple. He wants to say like, oh yeah, I've confirmed it. Confirmed it with fucking who? You confirm it with Bron Breakker himself? Has Bron Breakker come out and made a statement saying, oh yeah, fuck Logan Paul, he's a piece of shit? No, Bron Breakker has never said that. And Logan Paul pretty much denied it. You know, like, I don't know where the hell this is coming from. It's coming from lies. That's where it's coming from. But yes, Jonathan Coachman is full of shit. All right, now we got to get into the controversy involving AJ Styles' son, Avery Styles, and independent wrestler Eric Cannon. So Natalia, she recently praised Avery Styles after his appearance for Game Changer Wrestling. And Avery, he just started wrestling. He's 19 years old. He just broke into the business. He's taken several pictures with his dad after several of his matches. And then independent wrestler Eric Cannon said that Avery here is not paying his dues. And he accused him of not helping with event setup and teardown. And yeah, so that, he basically went off on Avery saying that, he didn't do shit. He didn't help set up the ring. He didn't help tear down the ring, didn't help set up any chairs or anything like that. And then AJ Styles immediately defended his son. AJ's argument was Avery was booked to wrestle, not work as the ring crew. So, the bigger debate when, you are on the indies is that the old school mentality is that the young guys help set up, the young guys help tear down, and that's how you earn respect, and that you don't expect special treatment. But now, we have this modern mentality that if you're booked as talent, you're talent. You're not automatically obligated to be crew, and that veterans should mentor young wrestlers instead of publicly embarrassing them. So, what do I think about this? I see both sides of it. I do. I mean, Eric Cannon, he has been an independent wrestler for years. And, there's a certain expectation when you're a veteran independent wrestler and then a young guy comes along and, they're not helping set up with the ring and all that. And yeah, I do think that I think Eric Cannon does have a point, but I also think that AJ Styles also has a point too. His son was booked as talent, so he should only be talent. However, I want to point out something that Lexis King, aka Brian Pillman Jr., pointed out, because he was on the indies before he got signed to WWE and NXT. He said that he never had to set up the ring or help with anything like that. He was just told to stay at the hotel, and then he would be, have to come to the arena at showtime. But yeah, he said he never had to do anything like that when he was on the indies. And I think, and to be honest, and this might be controversial for me to say, but the reason why Lexis King, Brian Pillman Jr. was never bitched at was because his dad is dead. I hate to be blunt like that, but that's probably the reason why. And I just want to be clear, I mean no disrespect when I say that about Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman Jr.'s dad. Brian Pillman was a tremendous wrestler, and, he was gone way too soon. But I mean no disrespect at all when I say that, but I think that's probably the reason why nobody gave Lexus any crap during his indie days. But, with Avery Styles, AJ Styles' his son, yeah, I mean, they're going to come at him because, his dad is a legend. AJ Styles is a legend in this business. He's won every major championship all across the world and in WWE. So I think there was an expectation that was, that had to be expected of him, and he did not fulfill a certain expectation of a certain independent wrestler. And then Eric Cannon was even showing pictures of Cody Rhodes when he was on the Indies helping with Teardown. You know, he was sweeping up shit in the ring. Like I said, I see both sides of it, but I think for Eric Cannon to make this a whole public, display, yeah, I think it was kind of a way to get his name out there more, to get people, finding out who he is and everything. Because I know who Eric Cannon is, actually. I am familiar with him. But I don't think very many people knew who he was until the story broke. But there's a lot of people that know about him now because he called out AJ Styles' son. All right, let's get into CM Punk and Kevin Owens here. And right now, I think this is the hottest feud going in WWE right now. But yeah, let's talk about how we got here. So CM Punk retained the WWE title against Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam with some help from Randy Orton. And then Kevin Owens won the Fatal 4-Way against Sami Zayn, Gunther, and Finn Balor to become the number one contender for the WWE Championship. And then we come to SmackDown this past Friday. Cody Rhodes came out and talked about Randy Orton screwing him over. And then Punk comes out. Cody asks Punk if he knew about Randy Orton showing up. Punk denied it. And, Punk even offered, like, hey, we can go backstage and we can whoop Randy Orton's ass right now. But Cody said, no, I appreciate it, but I'm going to handle this myself. So then Cody leaves. Kevin Owens comes out. And we get a promo exchange between Kevin Owens and Punk. And man, this got personal real quick. So, yeah, Kevin Owens said that Punk has not changed at all. And he called him the same arrogant sociopath that he's always been. And Punk has, he said he was appreciative of, Punk and the path that he's blazed for guys like him. But it also taught him how to not treat people and that he doesn't want to become the same miserable piece of shit that Punk has become. I was like, damn. And then Punk, of course, he had to fire back. He said that Owens wouldn't even be in WWE if it wasn't for him. And that if it wasn't for him, then Owens would be working a 9-to-5 job and would be a weekend warrior, wrestling indies. And he'd be calling him up, begging for WWE tickets for him and his son. But yeah, so things got personal in a hurry. And then Nick Aldis and referees and all that had a step in between them. And then Kevin Owens asked for his upcoming title match to be August 21st in Toronto. But yeah, as far as who I think won the promo, I think it was pretty even between these two. It was a nice exchange. This is definitely the most personal feud right now in the company. And, but like I said, previously, I think Sami Zayn is going to screw over Kevin Owens. I think that's going to happen. As much as I am liking this, I know it's not going to be permanent. So yeah, Sami Zayn will get involved and is just going to evolve into a Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn feud. And it'll be a blood feud between those two from there on. But I'm liking this. I'm hoping that they extend this somehow. But I know what the ultimate payoff is going to be, and that's Sami Zayn costing Kevin Owens the championship. All right, now I got to talk about what WWE is doing with Solo Sikoa right now, because this past week on Raw, we had Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa set up a match. And Solo, man, he was entertaining as hell on Raw, bro. Like Solo Sikoa, ever since he's become a face, dude has been a joy to watch. He's entertaining. He's got the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand. He's really showing some charisma, and people are loving it. But, Jay challenged Solo to a match, and basically the stipulation was if Jay won, then Solo would have to return to the Bloodline, and if Solo won, the Bloodline would have to leave Solo alone. So we go to the match, and Jimmy Uso got involved, and due to his involvement, Jay was able to beat Solo. So therefore, Solo now apparently is being forced back into the Bloodline. So what do I think about this? This makes no fucking sense at all. Because Solo just turned babyface. And they have been establishing him outside of the Bloodline. He's become more entertaining than he's ever been. He's been developing his own identity. And now, basically, they're like, oh, well, now you have to go back and be Roman's bitch again. What? That don't make any damn sense, dude. Like Jacob Fatu, okay. And here's the thing. I had a problem with Jacob, becoming a part of the Bloodline too. He lost 2 matches against Roman Reigns, and Roman was threatening to get him fired and all this, and then he ends up joining the Bloodline. He had to fall in line and join up with Roman, and now Solo has to do the same thing. So now Roman's going to have Solo and Jacob basically be under him and do shit they don't really want to do. I don't understand why they would do this shit. Honestly, like if you had Solo really break out here and he was just fucking awesome this past Monday on Raw, and he's just been awesome in general here lately, and now he's got to go back and be Roman's lapdog again. Stupid. And fans are getting tired of the Bloodline. They are. The fatigue has set in, and we're tired of it. We are sick of the Bloodline. These guys do not need to be together again. The Bloodline storyline in its first incarnation was legendary. But now the fans are tired of the Bloodline. And then, it's funny because we had Roman Reigns and LA Knight reignite their feud last week, and then this week, Roman Reigns wasn't on Raw, but LA Knight was, and he had a confrontation with Jacob Fatu, and the focus was on Solo and the Usos, pretty much. Now, what I'm hoping for on Raw next week is that, Solo's in the ring with the Bloodline, they're preparing for Solo to come back to the family and everything. And then LA Knight comes out and interrupts. And LA Knight looks at Solo saying like, hey man, like you don't need to do this. Roman don't own you. The Usos don't own you. Fuck them. And then Solo will be like, you know what, LA, you're right. And then, it leads to basically them turning the tables on Roman and the Bloodline. That's what I'm hoping happens on Raw this week, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. And hopefully there's some kind of better payoff to this, but right now, yeah, it just doesn't make any fucking sense to me at all. All right, now we got to talk about the debut of Zilla Fatu in NXT. Yes, Zilla is now officially a part of WWE. He made his debut on NXT this week. He attacked Grayson Waller and Cruz Montana. It was the number one contenders match for the NXT Championship. And Tony D, the current champion, was at ringside for the match on commentary. And Zilla put him on notice. He said, I'm here and I'm going to be gunning for that championship. So yes, Zilla came in hot. He dominated. He looked good. It's awesome to see. Yes, because here's the thing. Zilla Fatu, he's had quite the journey to get to this point here in coming to WWE. He was a guy who had some legal issues, some character issues, and that kind of prevented him from coming in sooner to WWE. But he's here now. He is the son of the late, great Umaga. And I think NXT is the perfect place for him. He's not getting involved in the bloodline mess right now. He's his own man in NXT. And yeah, that's the perfect way for him to establish himself, build his name. And yes, I think this is the perfect landing spot for Zilla. We've had rumors for a while saying that he was going to come into WWE, that he was already signed a contract, and it was just going to be a matter of when and not if. But he is here, and yeah, he's eventually going to interact with Roman, Solo, Jacob, and the Usos on the main roster. But for right now, he is an NXT, and I think he's got the potential to become a big star in the future. And yeah, man, I'm excited. Zilla Fatu was a guy who I've wanted to see come to WWE for quite a while now, and he has arrived in NXT. All right, guys, that's going to conclude Pro Wrestling Focus for this week. Had a lot to talk about on this week's show, but let me know what you thought. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And before I go, I just want to give you guys some updates on the other podcasts on the Springer Podcast Network. Check out my newest episode on the Cody Springer Show, where I discussed Plushie's Playground. Definitely got to check that episode out if you're a parent, making parents aware of that website. And then also there will be a brand new episode of Creepy AF dropping on Friday. Definitely got to check those out if you're into the scary fictional stories. And then my wife, Crystal, she will be back with an all new episode of the Crystal Show on Sunday. And we appreciate your guys' support and for watching. And I will talk to you all very soon. Watch wrestling and stay focused.